Darth, Theorist, rise. What if Batman trained Anakin Skywalker? Let's explore the depths of it in the video. Shmi ushers Anakin into his room, warning him to be quiet just as the thugs storm their tiny junk shop. The Weequays brandish their blasters and make their way over to the counter, where Watto glares at them, but there is fear in his eyes.
What is it you deadbeats want? I already paid my protection money this week. Our rate just went up. Sorry, boss, but it means you're short. Short? I've been busting my wings all week to get my protection money. So what do you expect me to pay you with? You see, that's a problem for you. Alright, boys, you know the drill.
The Gamorian guards grin and brandish axes and begin swinging shelves, knocking things off their hinges and scattering machinery in a shower of sparks. Anakin gasps and struggles under his mother's grip as he sees all the work he's done being torn apart. His anger begins to flash as they laugh and rip through the circuits of components he's been repairing, destroying the chassis of a pod racer thruster and ripping the head off an R2 unit that buzzes in alarm. However, as they tear through the shop, one Gamorian spots C-3PO lying in a corner. He begins to grin and looks over, hefting an axe. Anakin notices this as well and tears free from his mother's grasp, stepping in between them. The Gamorian guard grins and looks ready to shove him back.
No!
The words seem to reverberate across the room as the force flows through him in a sudden surge of power. The sheer energy from it leaves the thug momentarily stunned as he steps back and looks at Anakin in surprise. He slowly leans over and readies his axe yet again. Such a sight would have frightened most people, but Anakin does not back down. When the Gamorian moves closer, something flashes from the doorway and strikes him across the face. The warrior is thrown back and leaves the other thugs looking back in surprise. A figure appears from the door, swinging from the frame and kicking the lead Weequay onto a maintenance table. As the remaining Gamorian blinks and stares at the figure standing before him, he sees a suit of gray and black. A cowl in the shape of a bat hides his face, while a similar symbol is emblazoned on his chest. The Gamorian gulps and looks down at the man who crosses his arms. It takes him a heartbeat to compose himself before raising his weapon and taking a swipe at him. The axe barely makes it halfway down before Batman grabs his wrist and locks it with his own, before shoving the man back and throwing him across the room, and his head slams against the desk and leaves him groaning. But as the dust settles, Batman glances around, and his eyes fall on the young boy standing before him. Despite the tense situation, he has his fists clenched and ready to fight. Yet, Batman shakes his head and raises his arms in a placating gesture. It's all right. I'm not here to hurt you.
You're that weirdo who's been running amok in the streets.
The answer you're looking for is thank you. Now you, little one, are quite reckless.
Was I supposed to just let them take what was mine?
Batman wanted to answer yes, to say it wasn't worth dying for, and yet when Anakin speaks, he can sense the power. The boy would have actually fought that Gamorian, and despite the madness, Batman believes he could have won. He senses there is far more power in the child, power that could be a force for good, or could burn the galaxy to the ground. He offers his hand to the boy. If you really think that, then come with me. Gather your things and call your mother. You're coming with me. Anakin looks out in surprise while Watto tries to protest. However, Batman offers him a choice. Give up his slave or continue paying protection money to the Hutts. The Toydarian stares at them, looking conflicted. But in truth, it is an easy decision. By the time they depart, Batman is accompanied by Anakin and Shmi. Yet when they arrive in his home, Anakin feels his chest thumping with excitement. Like everyone else, he's heard the stories of Batman, who has become a folk hero of sorts to the people of the Outer Rim. Where the Republic and Jedi remain distant memories, Batman is present and active. He appears in the night seemingly out of nowhere to combat the influence of the Hutts and other criminal syndicates that terrorize the people. As they reach his estate, Anakin's eyes widen as, rather than living in a cave in the middle of nowhere, Batman instead stands before a massive mansion that puts even the Hutts' palace to shame.
You live here?
I do, but let's get you settled in. He has Alfred and his servant droids escort them to the dining area, where they begin to eat. Tray after tray of food is brought out, more than either has ever seen. The two waste no time in digging in, and Batman feels a small flicker of pleasure as he watches these two smiling and enjoying themselves. He says nothing more for the moment, letting them enjoy their meal before nodding and looking towards Anakin. In all my years of hero work, I've never seen anyone like your son.
He possesses immense power that few of his age should have, and with your permission, I would like to run some tests on him.
This is all so sudden, but so long as Anakin agrees, I will allow it.
Anakin is more than eager, especially since he has the legendary hero's attention. A blood sample is taken by Alfred as he eats, and the results are analyzed. The result is just as expected, but no less surprising. Anakin's midichlorian count is off the charts, even higher than some Jedi Masters. This only makes the detective more convinced of what he must do next. He leans over to the table and looks at the boy.
You appear to be Force-sensitive, young Skywalker. In fact, your powers could potentially surpass those of any Jedi. However, the question remains of what you intend to do with these powers.
What do you mean?
I mean, with great power comes great responsibility. There is nothing but chaos and injustice within the Outer Rim. And I think you, of all people, know that, having experienced it firsthand. My goal is to set things right and bring justice where there is none. I cannot do that alone, however. And if you're willing to help me, I can take you on as my student.
You wish for my son to become a vigilante, like you.
I only make the offer. I do not wish for you to think that any of this is contingent on this. If you refuse, I will still help you get set up and ensure you live your life comfortably for the remainder of your days.
Hang on, who said anything about refusing? Listen, I've spent my life under the thumb of slavery. Now that I'm free, I'm not going to spend my time doing nothing. If you need my help, then I'm happy to give it.
Anakin, are you certain?
I am, Mother. With how many people suffer worse than us, how can I refuse?
Batman nods, seeing the glimmer in Anakin's eyes. It is not the whims of a child, but a careful decision made by someone who understands the decision they are making. Soon enough, the training begins. When they ask if they will work with the Jedi, as Anakin has powers in the Force, Batman says no. They are far too distant and restricted in their missions, as they are bound to the Republic first and foremost. Their job is to go where the Jedi cannot, or refuse to serve. That is not to say that Batman fully rejects their influence. He takes parts of their Jedi code and imparts it on Anakin, specifically their notions of never harming the innocent, and takes it a step further by never killing. While Batman himself has no powers in the Force, he does recognize Anakin's need to learn it and studies the writings of the Jedi to help him understand. Thankfully, his wealth and influence allows him to find ancient Jedi texts, holocrons, and other sources of information to help Anakin learn. While the two study that, Batman also focuses on teaching Anakin practical skills. He takes to things like engineering and piloting with ease, although his combat training requires a bit of effort. But the most difficult aspect of training him is his detective skills. Batman explains that he doesn't just fight the bad guys. His job is to help solve mysteries and crimes, to give people who are affected justice. This requires a level of patience and discipline that Anakin struggles to master. And yet, he continues to train under Batman, who remains a firm but gentle hand on him. While Batman is sometimes cold and often stoic, he is never indifferent. He soon learns that rather than caring too little, the vigilante cares too much. Though his Force skills develop, Anakin still finds himself struggling to keep up with his master, who pushes himself beyond what is safe for a normal human. Yet Batman remains motivated with a sense of purpose that seems almost terrifying. While it does intimidate Anakin, it stuns the rest of the underground as the two begin their crusade against them. Batman alone was bad enough, but Anakin proves just as deadly. He isn't silent or brooding, but loud and fierce. With a custom lightsaber made in the Batcave, he proves an even more dangerous combatant. When mixed with his self-taught Force abilities, he proves equally dangerous. Across the Outer Rim, criminals are hunted down and arrested, villages are protected, and crime syndicate operations are dismantled. At first glance, it seems like what Batman has been dealing with for years, but something feels off. Since the conclusion of the Naboo crisis, the Republic has made its mission to the restoration and strengthening of its influence. And yet, rather than reducing the issues, they have only increased over time. More border conflicts and secessionist movements have sprung up. Corporations also flex their muscles, while those arrested face only minor punishments. To many, this appears no different than what they are used to, the bureaucracy and corruption of the Republic. But Batman begins to notice patterns. All of these movements seem orchestrated. They are placed in the most vulnerable areas, places that should logically be more protected and better monitored. And yet each time the Republic is caught unawares, almost as if someone is allowing this to happen. Batman slowly keeps track of certain groups of interest, taking note of those most likely to see a sudden surge in capabilities. In contrast, Anakin wishes to confront these groups directly and storm their headquarters. However, Batman refuses to let him do anything. To risk confronting them at that early of a stage might spook them and prevent them from seeing who might truly be behind everything. While it frustrates him, Anakin knows better than to challenge his mentor. Still, confronting the gangs that plague Hutt space provides a ready enough distraction, at least for now. When the Clone Wars break out, the entire galaxy is thrown into chaos. Countless systems, those same planets that Batman had noticed an unusual surge in secessionist movements. For all of this, it seems like this was done in secret by the CIS in preparation for their war effort. And yet Batman can't help but feel like something else is going on, something more. He keeps close watch on the growing Clone Wars, but rather than watching the growing factions, he instead keeps watch of the third parties, those who might cause further flashpoints. He soon finds one such prominent group in the form of Death Watch from Mandalore. Although the planet has remained neutral, the newly established pacifist government remains on shaky ground, and the Death Watch wishes to take advantage of that in order to regain power. The Bat computer's holomap flickers with dots of trade routes, shipments, and intercepted chatter. Batman's eyes narrow as he draws connections. They are receiving aid from an outside force, someone sending weapons and money for them.
Death Watch. They're recruiting again. They can't do that unless they are receiving outside support. Someone is feeding them.
Then let's go stop them, before they get stronger.
Not yet. First, we watch. Then we move.
Anakin clenches his fists. He hates it when Batman says that. Waiting feels like weakness. A part of him wants to say that, but when Batman glances over his shoulder, he bites his tongue. Instead, the two of them make their way over to the Batship and begin making their way over to Concordia. The moon stretches as their ship descends onto the blasted surface of the planet. Batman and Anakin move through the forest on foot. From a ridge, they watch the base below. A ring of Mandalorian warriors unloading crates from a transport. A separatist transport. These are brought to the hidden mines below by slaves. When Anakin sees this, his fingers tense, and he looks ready to pounce on them.
CIS ships. That's proof enough. Let's shut this down.
Proof is the first layer of a lie. We find the rest before we burn the mask off.
As the warriors depart, they follow after them to a nearby town that has yet to accept Pre Vizsla's offer of supplying their army. They begin to fire mortar rounds into the village, setting it on fire as the people run screaming, trying to cover themselves from the attack. Those too slow find themselves wrapped in cables or gunned down. Others are rounded up and dragged into the center of the square. This is too much for Anakin, who ignites his lightsaber. This time, Batman doesn't hesitate, and the two leap from their perch and ready their weapons. The nearest warriors are thrown back as they are struck with batarangs. Those who manage to raise their blasters find Anakin in their way, blocking their strikes. As Batman clears those on the right, his student takes off for those on the left. Yet the Jedi they encounter is unlike any they've seen before. His movements are slow and determined, while his eyes burn dangerously as he looks at them. His lightsaber blocks any attacks while his force powers throw them aside. When one man rushes at Anakin with a vibroblade, he recognizes the warrior as one of the ones harassing the villagers. Anakin flashes across him as he ensures the Death Watch fighter does not get the chance to attack. Channeling the Force, he lifts him off the ground and slams him against the side of a hut. The man screams and struggles for his blaster, but Anakin presses him closer and prepares his lightsaber to run him through.
We're ending this. Now.
Enough.
They're beaten.
They'll just regroup. We should finish this.
We don't kill. Ever. Justice, not vengeance.
Your code lets them keep breathing while innocents suffer.
He presses the blade closer, but Batman takes a step forward, batarang flashing in his hand and causing Anakin to hesitate. Finally, he extinguishes his lightsaber and shoves the man to the ground.
Fine then. You want to spare every 2-credit thug we run across, be my guest. But at least figure out where these weapons are coming from before another village gets torched.
Batman turns to the Mandalorian, who begins to rise up. He grabs him by the neck and holds him above the ground, demanding he talk. He soon gets his answers, as the man reveals that the governor, Pre Vizsla, has been using his position to smuggle weapons for their planned uprising against the Mandalorian government. Batman hesitates, lips pressed thin. He doubts he'll get much more from the man, and lets him go. Anakin is left fuming, but he doesn't do anything. He secretly begins to spread this information through unofficial channels in the underworld, letting everyone know of the connection between the CIS and the Death Watch. Meanwhile, his Bruce Wayne alter ego allows him to spread this information through legal channels that alert the Republic and the Senate to it. A full investigation by the Mandalorian government forces Death Watch to evacuate their holdings on Concordia rather than risk an open conflict with the Republic. With their forces on the run, they can no longer terrorize the people of that system. However, Anakin is not satisfied. To him, this simply seems like moving criminals from one part of the galaxy to the other, and he cannot accept that. He wants to finish them off. Now that they know who is responsible and that Dooku is backing them, it is enough for Anakin, who wants to see the job done. However, Batman forbids it. In truth, even Batman doesn't like it. Something feels off, and he can sense it when the Chancellor gives his address. Such an incident should have been troublesome, and even just the fact that he could not enact his policy should have been frustrating. And yet, Palpatine seems eerily calm, as if he already has some other scheme drawn up. That isn't something that happens normally, but Batman begins to take a closer look. The money trails don't line up. Too many credits, too few records. Someone is laundering arms through Mandalorian black markets. He continues to research, telling Anakin to hold his blade until the time is right. As Bruce, he uses his public persona to begin meeting with prominent figures, those close with the Chancellor, and those who might be more aware of what is happening on Coruscant, and with the recent developments on Mandalore. He spends weeks researching, and goes on solo missions to try and piece things together. While he is tempted to bring Anakin, he also sees how hot-headed the boy is, and decides not to risk it. So instead, Anakin forces on crime fighting outside the Death Watch, rushing through whatever gangs are unfortunate enough to get in his way, while keeping one ear close to the Mandalorians in Death Watch. Every once in a while, he will hear reports of them terrorizing villages in some far-off planet, or attacking a ship full of merchants, acting little more than brigands. This frustrates him to no end, especially since he knows that there is no way for him to do anything, so long as Batman forbids it. And here, their enemies see an opening. Together, those two are nearly unstoppable, so they decide to separate them instead, and destroy them one by one. During one such raid against a Hutt smuggling ring, the thugs are sure to remind Anakin of Death Watch. Even as they are defeated, the members act unafraid, claiming that they let Pre Vizsla get away. Why should they be any different? As one Rodian thug says that, Anakin's anger boils over. He grabs him by the collar and throws him across the room in frustration. But as he clears out the area, he finds a datapad. The goods they are smuggling are from Death Watch, and they had taken them from plundering a nearby town. At long last, Anakin can't control himself any longer. Something snaps within the boy as he hops onto one of the nearby starfighters and takes off, leaving the world around them behind to confront the criminals. At the same time, Batman at last begins to make progress in his search. He finds evidence that things are not what they seem when he notices just where the weapons came from. Rather than coming directly from droid factories, these weapons instead come from a Republic contract from Blast Tech Industries, an order that was shipped out to Hutt space before making its way to Mandalore. And the more Batman digs, the more common such incidents become. There were cases of information leaks, ship locations being discovered, and CIS forces being able to strike at unprotected Republic space. It certainly could be spies. It also could be someone releasing this information. It also happens that these leaks, no matter how small, were noticed by the office of the Chancellor, as he would release a statement about them. All of this tells him that Palpatine knows more than he lets on. That, or he is criminally incompetent. But as he prepares to act on this information, one of his beacons lights up on an Outer Rim world that the Death Watch are rumored to be operating in, alerting him of new activity. Cursing, he hurries to the Batjet and sees what's going on. He finds them hiding out in the snowy world of Karlak, having ransacked a village for defying them. The young Jedi advances alone, the fires surrounding him, but he does not feel afraid. If anything, he feels free. For the first time, he is unbound by Batman's code, by the rules of his master. Now, he can unleash his rage. As he advances into the village, he picks up a warrior and slams him into a burning hut, and sends the rubble crashing down on him. When another figure fires from a roof, Anakin contemptuously deflects it back and sends the man tumbling off the building. Others try to block his path, but he throws them back with the Force. Several of Pre Vizsla's bodyguards circle him, but he waves them back. Slowly, he ignites his darksaber and advances on him.
It has been many years since a Jedi fell before this blade.
And it will be many before that happens again.
With that, the two warriors rush at one another. The Mandalorian activates his jetpack to give him some life and strikes from above, but Anakin raises his lightsaber and blocks his strike. He then pushes it aside and uses the Force to throw Vizsla off balance. As the warrior stumbles in midair, he whirls around and fires his blaster with his offhand. Anakin runs from these attacks and tries to use his grappling hook to pull himself atop a house, but the Mandalorian notices this. He hurls a grenade at Anakin and sends the wall erupting into an explosion that throws him back. When he hits the ground, Vizsla emerges from the smoke and unleashes his flamethrower. Anakin has a moment to react. but he rolls from the initial blast and raises and hurls an EMP grenade. The flamethrower begins to short circuit and sparks just as Anakin uses his grappling hook to once again propel himself up directly at Vizsla, where he gives him an uppercut. The Mandalorian warrior stumbles, and Anakin grabs him by the cuirass and directs him downward. He drops him to the ground, where he raises his flamethrower. Anakin shoves it aside, letting the flames flow past his head as he palms his lightsaber. Reversing its grip, he holds the blue blade against his throat.
Do it then. I hear your bat friend would give you a scolding if you did.
Do I look like Batman to you?
No, you don't. You're a confused, angry boy.
A figure steps out from the snowy path. When two Death Watch warriors raise their blasters, he throws his batarangs and sends their blasters flying.
You aren't here to settle business. You're here to stop me. To let this monster walk away as if he doesn't deserve whatever is coming to him.
That isn't for you to decide.
Then who decides? You said it yourself. The Jedi influence here doesn't exist. We need to make our own justice. And that is what I'm doing.
Is it justice? Or are you just here to unleash your anger?
Does it matter? Why are you here?
I'm here because I wish to settle the scores, and I've learned just who is truly responsible for this threat. If you truly wish to make things right, you are free to join me, but I won't have someone only interested in revenge. Vizsla, your men received a shipment of weapons from Dooku. Do you have shipping records of them? Where did they come from?
And why should I answer to you?
Because I know you have little reason to back Dooku. After all, you're an exile here, without a planet to call your own. You call yourselves warriors, but all you can do is brutalize the locals. That's not the fate a warrior wants.
What do you know of my people?
I know you began this uprising because you wanted to bring back your warrior traditions. But right now, those same customs are on the brink of extinction. And if you do nothing, you'll be the last of the Mandalorians, who vanished into the mists of this backwater. But if you help me, I can at least ensure your warriors are remembered for something.
Vizsla looks at Batman, and then at his warriors, all trained and ready, but also haggard, left without the chance to test their mettle. Slowly, he sets his darksaber aside and nods. Using the old shipping reports from his datapad, they track the weapon shipment point from a spaceport in Hutt space, neutral and unassuming, perfect for moving goods under the radar. They gather their ships and hurry there, finding a hangar bay that smells of fuel and rust. Neutral banners flutter over stacked containers, but Batman recognizes the real owners, the syndicates who act as middlemen for anyone with credits. Batman, Anakin, and Vizsla slip through the shadows, their warriors traveling through the roofs and keeping watch of anything. The trio makes their way to the old shipping manifest, where they review the suppliers for the weapons Vizsla removed.
Not separatist. Private contractors, paid to keep both sides supplied, no matter who wins and no matter where their goods come from.
Still, why would whoever did this risk getting weapons from blast tech instead of droids?
Authorities are more likely to monitor enemy movements than anything on their own end. And the number of blasters we're talking about is worth millions. Maybe the company wanted more money and didn't particularly care who ended up getting their guns.
All this time, we thought it was Dooku, but they're all feeding on it. The Republic has been fighting itself.
Before Batman can answer, alarms shriek. Dockside mercenaries swarm the bay, supported by security droids. Batman disables the lights and blinds enemies with smoke pellets. This gives the Mandalorians a chance to attack and join in and descend from the rooftops. Batman turns to download the data while Vizsla and Anakin protect him. Yet, as the file is finished, a slow clap echoes through the chamber. Count Dooku steps from the shadows.
Impressive. The detective, the wayward Jedi, and a Mandalorian pretender. A most unusual company you've gathered. A shame your quest must end here.
Vizsla growls and ignites his darksaber as Anakin follows after him. Dooku smirks and ignites his weapon. He steps back and lets the Mandalorian's weapon go wide before kicking him back and thrusting his lightsaber. The darksaber barely turns the attack as Dooku advances on him. He slows down to block Anakin's downward slash and knocks him aside. As he stumbles, Dooku focuses on Vizsla, his lightsaber continuing to press him and keep him on the defensive. Cursing, Vizsla raises his blaster, but finds it cut in half. It does give him time to raise his weapon and try to strike him. Their weapons lock, and he glares at the Count. For a moment, it seems like his superior strength will get the better of him. Anakin tries to strike from behind, but the Count darts aside and suddenly unleashes a torrent of lightning at the pair. While Anakin can block it, Vizsla is less experienced and too slow. He screams as lightning surges through him, but Dooku doesn't give him a chance to recover. His weapon flashes and cuts through the Mandalorian's defenses before he can scream.
No!
He hurls himself at Dooku, rage exploding. Their blades crash, sparks flying. Anakin's strength is raw, furious, but sloppy. Dooku sidesteps, counters, and slams him with a surge of force lightning. Anakin crumples, smoke rising from his body, yet he still rises. When Dooku brings his lightsaber down, Anakin barely manages to block it. Batman intervenes. Grappling hook snaps, pulling beams down to disrupt Dooku's movements. It allows Anakin to leap aside and hurl his lightsaber. While the Count can dodge it, Anakin leaps at him again. His weapon flashes in a blinding display and forces Dooku to defend just as Batman joins in. While he does not have a lightsaber of his own, he is agile enough to avoid the strikes and use a pair of Beskar gauntlets to block the attacks. He intercepts one blow and then throws a punch against Dooku's stomach.
Enough! This isn't about revenge. You want justice, Count. So do I. The Republic is rotting. The Jedi are too rigid. I see it too. But you don't need to replace tyranny with tyranny. We can build something better.
We? What do you have to offer? You've spent years wandering alone, accompanied only by that boy.
But now I have the Death Watch. Vizsla's gone, but I can rule them and make them something better.
You? I've heard of your code, Batman. It is just as rigid as the Jedi's.
And yet, I've done more than the Jedi have with only my student. And with your resources and my reach, we can bring it to the entire galaxy.
Perhaps there is more sense in you than the Jedi Council.
You want to work with him? After everything he's done?
I want to end this war, not fight it forever. I don't spare people because I'm weak. I spare them because they can help make something better.
Anakin glares at Dooku, then at Batman, his knuckles white around his saber hilt. For the first time, he wonders if his master's obsession with justice is just another kind of compromise. But as his master's idea springs in his mind, he must admit it's tempting. With that, the evidence is gathered without further incident. And not only that, Dooku provides communications that clearly link him with the Chancellor, all of which is discreetly sent to the Senate, who are stunned by this. Suddenly, the entire war effort is thrown into question, and many call for an investigation into these claims. Dooku watches from the shadows, ready to provide evidence should the need arise. In the meantime, he pours resources into helping Batman create his new faction. Not all Death Watch members support him. Many are purged from the Order who refuse to see their new mission. But those who remain create a core of fighters who can help restore order in the galaxy. That's our theory. The Star Wars universe is a galaxy filled with exciting stories and possibilities, and we love exploring them. If you want to accompany us on this journey to a galaxy far, far away, then please like, share, and subscribe to our channel.